Hello, amazing people. Welcome back to our channel, where we dive into the most enchanting and spine-tingling tales from around the world. And today I have a story that will send chills down your spine and ignite your imagination. Have you ever heard of the girl who married a skeleton? It's a hauntingly beautiful tale of love, mystery, and the supernatural that will keep you on the edge of your seat. So grab your favorite blanket, turn down the lights, and get ready for an unforgettable journey into the eerie and enchanting world of this timeless legend. Let's begin. There lived a man named Afiong. He was a native of Koba town. He had a very beautiful daughter whose name was Afiong. All the young men in the village wanted to marry her on account of her beauty, but she refused all offers of marriage, in spite of repeated entreaties from her parents, as she was very vain and said she would only marry the best-looking man in the community, who would have to be young and strong and capable of loving her properly. Most of the men her parents wanted her to marry, although they were rich, were old men and ugly, so the girl continued to disobey her parents, at which they were very much grieved. The skeleton who lived in the spirit land heard of the beauty of this Calabar virgin and thought he would like to possess her, so he went about amongst his friends and borrowed different parts of the body from them, all of the best. From one he got a good head, another lent him a body, a third gave him strong arms, and a fourth lent him a fine pair of legs. At last he was complete and was a very perfect specimen of manhood. He then left the spirit land and went to Koba market, where he saw Afiong and admired her very much. About this same time, Afiong heard that a very handsome man had been seen in the market, who was better looking than any of the natives. She therefore went to the market at once, and directly she saw the skeleton in his borrowed beauty, she fell in love with him and invited him to her house. The skeleton was delighted and went home with her, and on his arrival was introduced by the girl to her parents and immediately asked their consent to marry their daughter. At first they refused, as they did not wish her to marry a stranger, but at last they agreed. He lived with Afiong for 2 days in her parents' house, and then said he wished to take his wife back to his village, which was far away. To this the girl readily agreed, as he was such a handsome man, but her parents tried to persuade her not to go. However, being very headstrong, she made up her mind to go, and they started off together. After they had been gone for a few days, the father consulted his native doctor, who by casting lots very soon discovered that his daughter's husband belonged to the spirit land, and that she would surely be killed. They therefore all mourned her as dead. After walking and sailing on the sea for several days, Afiong and the skull crossed the border between the spirit land and the human community. Immediately they set foot in the spirit land. Firstly, a man came to the skeleton and demanded his legs, then another his head, and the next his body, and so on, until in a few minutes the skeleton was left by itself in all its natural ugliness. At this, the girl was very frightened and wanted to return home, but the skeleton would not allow this and ordered her to go with him. When they arrived at the skeleton's house, they found his mother, who was a very old woman quite incapable of doing any work, who could only creep about. After some days, Afiong tried her best to help her, and she cooked her food and washed the dirty clothes of the old woman. The old woman was very grateful for these attentions and soon became quite fond of Afiong. One day, the old woman told Afiong that she was very sorry for her and that all the people in the spirit land were cannibals, and when they heard there was a human being in their community, they would come down and kill her and eat her. The skeleton's mother then hid Afiong from the other skeletons in the spirit land, and she helped looked after Afiong so well and promised she would send her back to her village as soon as possible, providing that she promised that in future she will obey her parents. Afiong agreed, and make the promise to do as told. The next day, the old woman presented Afiong with a calabash filled with treasures on account of her kindness. She then made an incantation and called the winds to come and convey Afiong to her home. At first, a violent tornado came with thunder, lightning, and rain, but the skull's mother sent him away as unsuitable. The next wind to come was a gentle breeze, so she told the breeze to carry Afiong to her mother's house and said goodbye to her. Later that day, the breeze deposited Afiong outside her home and left her there. When her parents saw their daughter, they were very glad, as they had for some months given her up as dead. The father spread soft wrappers on the ground from where his daughter was standing all the way to the house, so that her feet should not be soiled. Afiong then walked to the house, and her father called all the young girls who belonged to Afiong's company and also the villagers to come and dance, and the feasting and dancing was kept up for 8 days and nights. He was happy. His daughter is alive. When the rejoicing was over, the father reported what had happened to the head chief of the town. The chief then passed a law that parents should never allow their daughters to marry strangers who came from a far village. Then the father told his daughter to marry a friend of his, and she willingly consented and lived with him for many years and had many children. Wow, what a tale. The Girl Who Married a Skeleton is a story that lingers in the mind long after it's told. It reminds us that love and loyalty can transcend even the most unusual and frightening circumstances. If you enjoyed this story as much as I did, make sure to give this video a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button so you never miss another magical story from our channel. I'd love to hear your thoughts and interpretations of this tale, so leave a comment below and let's get a discussion going. Until next time, keep your imagination alive and remember, every story has the power to transport us to another world. Stay curious, and I'll see you in the next video. Happy storytelling.